Hello viewers, we are back again with the capsule discussion. Career Power in association with the official YouTube channel of bankersadda.com and sscadda.com, that is Adda 247, brings to you the SSC GA capsule discussion. So before we begin with the capsule discussion, let's have a look on all the important topics which are a part of general studies part for SSC CGL 2016. So let's discuss first of all the marks distribution or the question distribution in the SSC CGL GA part. If we talk about the question discussion, the science portion, that is the physics, chemistry and bio, they are the important one. Yeah, these are the important topics for the GS portion. Now let's have a look. If we see the expected pattern, as this year SSC will be online and there will be only 25 questions in the GA portion. And the previous examination, what we have seen, 10 questions or approximately 40% questions have been from the science portion. So let's discuss the sectional wise or the question wise detail of all the topics of general awareness. If we see the questions from the physics portion, clearly 2 to 3 questions we are expecting in this year's SSC examination. Chemistry portion, again 2 to 3 questions, or biology portion 3 to 4 questions. Matlab in total 10 questions approximately will be there from the science portion. And if we see the next important topic, students, the next important topic is polity, then economics, and then history. And if we talk about history, focus first on modern history, and then focus on medieval, and then we can do ancient one. And the last thing which we have to do is geography, and which includes 3 to 5 questions. Now this year, as we have only 25 questions, so what could be the good attempt for us? We want every student should do at least 10 to 15 questions in this year's SSC CGL, as we know to do 25 questions with 100% accuracy is next to impossible. So with this video, we will be helping you out what all are the important topics for this year SSC CGL GS portion and which topics you can leave so that you can focus on other subjects also. So let's start with the first topic, that is polity. So let's begin with the polity capsule. Now, before we start the discussion, the main concern of the students after seeing the capsule on SSC Adda was 97 pages. Yes, students, the capsule is of 97 pages, but it is not only of history. It is a combined capsule of history, civics, economics, general science, and geography. So you should not complain of 97 pages, but through this video we'll help you out how you have to deal with all those 97 pages, as there is very less time is remaining for the actual examination. So now the first topic, the first important point is framing of the constitution. And students, we have seen in the examination there have been questions from this topic. So now how you have to deal with the polity portion. You can clearly see this, all the polity concepts are theoretical, but it's not you have to mug up all the things. Don't learn all the things. Just try to read as many topics as you can, as once again, as we have done in the current affairs capsule also, we'll have to use our remembrance power in this. Yes, students, remembrance power, which clearly means that you will be having 4 options. Yes, you will not be having 5 options in this. You will be having 4 options, and by reading you can easily remember what could be the important topic, or you can remember the answer. So let's start with the topics, how you have to learn, how you can remember all these points. Now the first topic is framing of constitution, in which clearly what it is given that a constitution assembly was set up, and it was set up under the cabinet mission 1946 plan. Then how much time it took? It took 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to complete the constitution. And during this period, how many sessions? 11 sessions held with the total of 165 days. Now the next question which have been asked in the examination is how many members were there? So members were in the assembly were reduced to 99. However, as a result of partition, a separate constituent assembly was set up for Pakistan, and representative of some provinces ceased to be the members of assembly, and which leads to the member reduction, and which was reduced to 299. Now, after this, what was the cabinet mission plan? You should have an idea what was the cabinet mission plan at. Because of this plan only, the Constitution Assembly was set up, and the question from this topic could be, who all are the members of it? So the members of this were Lord Pethick Lawrence, Stanford Cripps, and A.V. Alexander. Then the question could be, the first interim national government was formed. The first interim national government was formed on 2nd of September 1946, and it was led by a first prime minister, that is led by Pandit Nehru. Now, what could be the more question here? What could be the some of the important questions from this Constitutional Assembly? The one question is this: who was the first president of Constitutional Assembly? So my answer to this will be Sachidanand Sinha. And then later on, who became the permanent president of Constitutional Assembly? So my answer will be Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And who was appointed as the chairman of the drafting committee? So my answer is B.R. Ambedkar. Students, all these three names are important for the polity questions. As we have seen in the previous examination, all the three questions have been came in different examination. Now, after the introduction of the Constitution, after the Constitutional Assembly, the next three important topics are sources of Constitution, the articles, and the schedules. So student, for all of these, I'll not discuss this in this video. We have already shared the tricks to learn all the things. This articles are basically the parts. We have already shared the tricks. We'll share all those videos link in the comment section under this video. So follow those videos and learn all these things, that is the sources, the articles, and the schedules in few minutes. Now, the next topic after these three topics the student should read is fundamental rights. Yes, fundamental rights, don't go in detail, just read the introduction portion which we have mentioned. Now, from this the question could be, which are the rights which are not cancelled, which are not suspended during national emergency? So my answer will be Article 20 and 21. And then what we have to learn is that which right is known as the heart and soul of the Indian Constitution. So the answer is right to constitutional remedies. And rest you have to remember the right to property, which was a right and now it is a legal right. These all could be the important questions from this fundamental rights portion. Now the next you have to remember the directive principles of state policy. Once again, what could be the important portion here? The important portion could be the article number, that is article from 36 to 51, or the next important point could be from where we have taken the DPSPs, that is the directive principles of state policies. And the next important portion is fundamental duties, and the next is citizenship. Students, for all these four topics, don't go in detail, just have a brief of this. As we have given in the capsule, if you are reading the capsule, you can clearly see we have given all these four topics very brief. Read it. If we talk about fundamental rights, you can clearly say what could be the question. The question from this could be, it was introduced in the 42nd Amendment of 1976 in the form of Article 51, and for this a new part was created, a new part named Part 4A, and the idea of a separate chapter on the duties was recommended by which committee? It was recommended by Swam Singh Committee. And initially there were 10 fundamental duties, and the next important question could be, the 11th fundamental duty was added in the 86th Amendment Act 2002 in the form of 51A, and which is a duty for the parent or a guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, or the case may be between the age of 6 to 14 years. Now next, if we talk about the citizenship topic, you have to learn, you should know how many ways are there by which a person can acquire a citizenship of India. So my answer to this is 5, that is citizenship by birth, citizenship by descent, citizenship by registration, citizenship by naturalization, and citizenship by incorporation of territory. Now students, what we have seen in the examination, in previous examination, the polity question, when there were around 50 questions, there were 5 polity questions. Now, the questions has been reduced to 25, but we are still expecting approximately 2 to 3 questions. And one question for sure would be from the topic, the union executive. Now, in union executive, what we will study president, we will study vice president, we will study the parliament, we will study Lok Sabha, we will study Rajya Sabha, and we will study all the important constitutional posts. Now, you must be thinking of for 2 or 3 marks. This much you have to study. Yes, students, this much you have to study, but once again, we'll use here the remembrance theory here. We'll just read it, and while reading, I'll let you know what could be the possible questions from this union executive. So let's start the discussion. Now, if we talk about union executive, we will be starting with the president. And president, the first important question could be in the first line only, Article 52, that there shall be a president of India, and Article 53, the executive powers of the union shall be vested in the president. Now, what are the executive power? Mainly the appointment power will be vested in with the president. Again, some more important points. He is the first citizen of India and occupies the first position under the warrant of presidents, and he is also the supreme commander of all forces. Now, the next question, the next possible topic could be how he has been appointed. Now, if we talk about the election of president, he is elected by indirect election. You should know this. He is elected by an electoral college in accordance with the system of proportional representation, and the electoral college of president consists of the members of both the houses of parliament. Remember, the nominated members are not the part. And the next one is elected members of all the legislative assemblies of the state, including the National Capital Territory of Delhi and Pondicherry or Puducherry UT. Now, the next important point is Article 62. Now, Article 62, in this the Constitution provides that an election to fill a vacancy shall be held as soon as possible after or in case no later than 6 months from the date of occurrence of vacancy. In simple terms, it means that within 6 months, if a president seat is vacant, if the president seat is vacant, within 6 months we should have a new president. Now, what are the qualifications of president? Must be a citizen of India, must complete 35 years of age, must be qualified. Remember, he is not a member of parliament. He should be qualified for election as a member of the House of People. One more important point is that he should not hold any office of profit under the government of India. But there are some posts who can apply for the presidential elections: a sitting president, a vice president of India, a governor of any state, or a minister of union or any state. Now, what's the eligibility? If we talk about eligibility, a person who holds or who held office as president shall be eligible for re-election n number of times. Now, the next important point here is the impeachment of president, and the most frequent question from this is what is the article of impeachment? The article of impeachment is 61. Let's have a look on how. Let's read it, how a president can be impeached. So the president can be removed from the office before the expiry of his term by the process of impeachment, and he can be impeached only for the violation of the Constitution. What is the basis? The basis here is violation of Constitution. And what is the process? The process is that the impeachment procedure can be initiated in any of the House of Parliament. Now, just go through the impeachment process. This is an important topic. Now, after this, there's a situation. Now, what's the situation is, if the president always will give his resignation to the vice president. Now, if the president resign or if the president's seat is vacant, who could be the immediate president? Then vice president will act as president. And if it is a situation that both president and vice president, they are not there, then the Chief Justice of Supreme Court will act as president. And if these three are not there, then the senior most judge of Supreme Court will be acting as the president. And we have mentioned all these things in the vacancy filled up with the acting president. Now, the next important topic you have to learn is all the legislative powers, all the powers of the president. So the president of powers includes legislative powers, executive powers, financial powers, judicial powers, and the diplomatic powers. All these powers you have to remember. Just read the important points. Now, what could be the important points from these powers questions? The first important point is that in legislative power, 12 members in Rajya Sabha is appointed by the president, and a maximum of 2 members in Lok Sabha, and that belong to Anglo-Indian community. Now, there are 2 more powers also there. The military powers, as we have already discussed, he is the supreme commander of all forces, and there's one more power, that is the emergency powers. Emergency powers means that the president can impose 3 types of emergency: national, state, and financial. Students, the emergency topic is also important for the examination. Now, let's talk about some important details of vice president. And if we talk about vice president, the most important point is that who is the chairman of Rajya Sabha? So my answer will be vice president. Yes, students, vice president is always the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Now, let's talk about some of the important points related to vice president. Now, if we talk about the difference between the electoral college between the president and vice president, the difference is that the state legislative assembly do not participate in the vice presidential election. Rest, all things are same. And if we talk about the eligibility criteria, same. A citizen of India, completed 35 years of age, qualified for election as the member of Council of State, and holds any office of profit under the government of India or the state government of India or any subordinate local authority. Now, if we talk about the removal of vice president, the constitution states that the vice president can be removed by a resolution passed by Rajya Sabha with absolute majority. Now, for the president we have the impeachment process, but for vice president we have a resolution with absolute majority must be passed from Rajya Sabha, and it should be also agreed by a simple majority of Lok Sabha. Now, if we talk about the powers and functions, we have already talked about the most important function. The most important function is that he acts as the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. He acts as a president also whenever a vacancy occurs in the office of president due to his resignation, removal, death, or otherwise. But he can act as a president for maximum 6 months. As we have already discussed, a presidential election should be held within 6 months. Now, for the first time, there could be a question, for the first time during the 15-day visit of Dr. Rajendra Prasad to Soviet Union in July 1960, the then Vice President Dr. Radhakrishnan acted as the president. So students, you can note down this as an important fact. Students, now, the way I am reading it, this is the way you should follow for the GS portion. You can't learn everything. You can't learn. You can't mug up all the things. You have to do like this only. Just read, and for sure you will see whenever there is a question related to that topic, by seeing the option, you will be able to mark that answer correctly. Now let's discuss some more important topics. The next topic is the next head, that is the Prime Minister. Now, appointment of Prime Minister, if we straight away comes to the Prime Minister appointment, Article 75 says that the Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President. Yes, students, remember this. This is an important point. The President appoints. Now, what are the options with the President? The President appoints the leader of the majority party in Lok Sabha as PM. But when there is no clear majority in Lok Sabha, then the President may exercise his discretionary powers. Now, if we talk about the tenure, remember students, the tenure of President and Vice President is 5 years. If we talk about the tenure of Prime Minister, the term of Prime Minister is not fixed, but he holds the office during the pleasure of President, or so long as the PM enjoys the majority support in the Lok Sabha, he cannot be dismissed by the President. But if its party loses the confidence in Lok Sabha, he must resign, or the President can dismiss him. Now, if we talk about the powers and functions, he recommends the person who can appointed by as ministers. Matlab, the President will only elect, but those have been selected, the cabinet ministers have been selected by the Prime Minister himself. He can recommend dissolution of Lok Sabha to the President at any time, and he is the chairman of Niti Aayog, the National Development Council, the National Integration Council, the Interstate Council, and the National Water Resources Council. Now, the Council of Ministers, the Central Council of Ministers, Article 74 deals with the status of Council of Ministers, and while Article 75 deals with the appointment, tenure, responsibility, oath, qualification, salaries, and allowances of the ministers. Now, if we talk about some of the facts related to the Central Council of Ministers, the total number of ministers, including the PM in the council, shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of Lok Sabha, and this was decided under the 91st Constitutional Amendment Act 2003. The Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. We have seen such questions. And one more important fact, a person who is not a member of either house can also become a minister, but he needs to become a member within 6 months. So students, the 6 months logic in polity is very important, as there are many cases where the answer could be 6 months only. As we have already discussed, we have discussed the President case, we have discussed the second case. If we talk about the Council of Ministers, it consists of 3 categories. The 3 categories are Cabinet Ministers, Minister of States, and Deputy Ministers. Now, students, let's talk about the Parliament. Now, if we talk about the Parliament, Parliament comprises of 3 things: Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the President. These 3 things combinedly makes up the Parliament. Now, if we talk about some of the important facts related to Lok Sabha, now let's highlight some of the important facts related to Lok Sabha. Now, Lok Sabha is popular house because its members are directly elected by the communal electorate, except, we have already discussed, except not more than 2 members from Anglo-Indian Committee, which has been nominated by the President. What is the total strength? The total strength currently is 552, which can be the total number of strength, but presently we have only 545 members, and also the government has extended this freeze, that is the total number of seats is 552 till 2026, and this is given in 84th Amendment, which was held in 2001. Now, the most important power is that money bill and financial bill can originate in Lok Sabha only. And in case money bill, the Rajya Sabha has only the right to make recommendation, and the Lok Sabha may or may not accept the recommendation. The next important power is that the Council of Ministers are responsible only to Lok Sabha. And one more important fact is that under Article 352 article is related with the national emergency. It is clearly mentioned that the Lok Sabha in a special sitting can disapprove the continuance of national emergency proclaimed by the President. And if we talk about the tenure of Lok Sabha, if we talk about the tenure of Lok Sabha, the tenure of Lok Sabha is 5 years. But the House can be dissolved by the President even before the normal tenure. Now, what are the possible qualifications? The possible qualifications: citizen of India. Now, remember the age is 25 years. Be a registered voter in any of the parliamentary constitution in India, should not hold any office of profit, should not be insolvent, and should not be mentally unsound. And who is the head of Lok Sabha? The Lok Sabha head is the Speaker. The chief presiding officer of Lok Sabha is the Speaker. The Speaker presides over the meeting of the House and his rulings on the proceedings of the Houses. The Speaker and the Deputy Speaker may be removed from the Houses by a resolution passed by an House with an effective majority. And the Speaker, to maintain the impartiality of his office, votes only in case of a tie. And students, mark this is important point. This is known as casting vote. This is known as casting vote. Clearly mentioned, the Speaker, to maintain impartiality of his House, votes only in case of a tie, to remove a deadlock, and this is known as casting vote. Now, then you have to read the special powers of speakers. Whether a bill is money bill or not, it is certified only by whom? Only by the Speaker. Students, we can't explain each and every point in the capsule, but we are taking all the important points which you should know for the examination point of view. Now, let's come to the next power. The next power is, if the Speaker is a member of any of the committee, then he is the ex officio chairman of such a committee. Now, special position of a Speaker. In special position of a Speaker, you should remember that he continues his office even after the dissolution of a House till a new Lok Sabha is constituted. And who presides? Students, mark third point is very important. Who presides the joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament? It is presided by a Speaker. And who called for it? The President of India has the power to call for a joint sitting. Now, you must have heard the term pro-term Speaker. Now, what's the meaning of the term, the pro-term Speaker? As provided by the Constitution, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha vacates his office immediately before the first meeting of the newly elected Lok Sabha. Therefore, the President appoints a member of a Lok Sabha as pro-term Speaker, and the pro-term Speaker has all the powers of the Speaker. He presides over the first meeting of the newly elected Lok Sabha, and his main duty is to administer oath of all the new members. Now, students, we have in Parliament, we have a lower house and we have a upper house, and the upper house is what? And the upper house is Rajya Sabha. Now, if we talk about Rajya Sabha or the Council of States is known as the upper house. How many members are there? 250 members are there, of which 12 are nominated by the President. Now, if we talk about if we take the small comparison, lower house, upper house, 552 members, 250 members, 2 members, that is Anglo-Indian, appointed by the President, nominated by the members, 12 members, nominated by the members, tenure 5 years, tenure 6 years, and remember this, it is a temporary house, which clearly means that why we are saying it is a temporary house, Lok Sabha is a temporary house, because it can be dissolved by the President on the recommendation of Prime Minister. And if we talk about Rajya Sabha, it is a permanent house with its 1/3 members are retired after every 2 years. Let's discuss some of the important points of Rajya Sabha in detail now. Members sit for 6-year terms with 1/3 of the members retiring every 2 years. Now, the President nominated persons are art, literature, science and social services. And we know who is the ex-officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. So my answer is the Vice President. And the first Rajya Sabha meeting held on 13th of May. Now, Leader of the House, there is a provision of Leader of the House. Besides the Chairman and the Deputy Chairman, there's also a function called Leader of the House. This is a cabinet minister, that is if a PM if he is a member of the House, or any other nominated minister. The leader has a seat next to the chairman, the Leader of the House in Rajya Sabha. Now, what is the qualification? If we talk about in Lok Sabha, the qualification was 25 years, but in Rajya Sabha, the qualification is 30 years, be a citizen of India, be 30 years of age or more, not holding any office of profit under the central or state government, and possess all other qualification as prescribed by the Act of Parliament. Now, if we talk about the powers of Rajya Sabha, it enjoys co-equal powers with Lok Sabha in respect of all bills except the money bill. Students, please read all the important points related to money bills, as this is one of the important topics, one of the many important topics from Indian polity. Now, what are the exclusive functions of Rajya Sabha? There are 3 exclusive functions of Rajya Sabha. The first function is that by a special majority of 2/3, it could ask the Parliament to make laws on subjects of the state list in national interest. Second, Rajya Sabha can take steps to create an all India services by adopting resolutions. And the third is that Rajya Sabha has the exclusive right to initiate a resolution for the removal of Vice President. These are the exclusive functions of Rajya Sabha. Now, for the polity portion, if you want to learn summoning, you want to learn joint sitting, you should know how many sessions are there in a year. There are 3 sessions. Budget, we start the year with budget session, then monsoon session, and then the winter session. Now, if we talk about the joint sitting, and one more important fact related to session is that, again, a 6 months clause, that the maximum gap between 2 sessions of the Parliament cannot be more than 6 months. Students, this is an important fact. Now, let's talk about joint sitting. We've already discussed that the joint sitting is being called by the President and it is being presided by the Speaker. Until now, how many joint sitting have been took place? So, there are only 3 joint sitting in May 1961, May 1978 and in 2002. Don't remember the years. Just remember that 3 joint sitting has been held. Now, the joint sitting on both the houses can be convened on 2 occasions, maybe if case of deadlock. Now, what's the meaning of deadlock? When there is no result, either there is no yes or there is no, or the special address by the President at the commencement of the first session. Now, we should know about prorogation, adjournment and adjournment sign D. Now, if we talk about grounds of disqualification of the Parliament, just you can read it down. It's not that much an important topic, but remember the articles. Article 102 is related with the grounds of disqualification of members of Parliament. Now, the most important topic, bills. Maybe one question. Yes. Students, you have to remember one point is that the exam is between 27th August till 11th or 12th of September. Matlab, there are approximately 8 to 10 shifts and there is a lots and lots of GS. So, maybe in one set you will find a question from different topic of polity. Maybe in some of the set you will find the bills topic. So, therefore, for this thing we have to do maximum important topics so that we can score, we can able to attempt at least 10 to 15. Yes, we are not saying it that 10 questions will be from polity, but we have to fill it with 2, as there are 5 to 6 sections in GS portion, and if we are taking polity, if we do two questions of each section, we will able to easily attempt 12 to 15 questions. So now let's discuss the bills. There are 4 kinds of bills mentioned in the Constitution. It's ordinary bill, money bill, financial bill and constitutional amendment bill. Now for money bill, it's a very odd definition. Any other bill other than money, financial or constitutional amendment bill is called an ordinary bill. And remember this, it can be introduced in any of the houses of the parliament and passed by a simple majority. Now, out of all the bills, the most important bill is money bill and then the constitutional amendment bill. Now, let's talk about some of the important points of money bill. A bill that deals exclusively with the money matters that mentioned in Article 110 is known as money bill. Now, money matters could be taxation related, borrowings related, it could be related to consolidated or contingency fund of India, or it could be related to any other expenditure. Now, if we talk about how it has been introduced, a money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha on the recommendation of President. But who decides a bill is a money bill or not? It is decided by the Speaker. Remember this point. It is passed by a simple majority and Rajya Sabha has no rights related to money bill. Only point you should know is that if the Rajya Sabha does not pass the bill for 14 days, then on the expiry, it expired after the 14th date. Matlab on the 15th day, it will be declared as passed. And also, if Rajya Sabha suggests any of the changes, it will be dependent on Lok Sabha only. If they could consider, if they want to consider, they will consider. If they don't want to consider, they will not consider the changes or the amendments done by Rajya Sabha in the money bill. Now, there is no deadlock between the houses over the passage of money bill. When a money bill is presented to the President under the Constitution, he shall declare or he give assent or withhold the assent. Now, why there can be no deadlock? Because we all know that in case of passing of money bill, the Lok Sabha has more powers than the Rajya Sabha. Now, if we talk about financial bill, a bill apart from dealing with one or more money matters, if it also deal with some non-money matters also, then it is termed as financial bill. And one important point related to financial bill is that financial bill is introduced in the way of money bill, but it is passed in the way of ordinary bill. Matlab, it will be introduced in Lok Sabha only, but for this Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha has equal powers. Now, students, let's discuss the important points of Constitutional Amendment Bill, and the first important point for the Constitutional Amendment Bill is the article number. Students, there are more than 400 articles. You can't learn the article number of each and every article number, but for some of the important topics you should remember. As we already discussed, 110 is related to money bill, 112 is related to budget, Article 368 is related to Constitutional Amendment Bill. A bill introduced under Article 368 to amend one or more provisions of the Constitution is called the Constitutional Amendment Bill, and it can be introduced in any house of the Parliament. And remember, students, it does not require the recommendation of the President, and it should be passed by both the houses separately. Now, in examination, what we have seen, joint sitting, clearly it is mentioned that joint sitting is not allowed. The Constitution does not provide for a joint sitting of both the houses of Parliament if there is a deadlock developed between the two houses. Now, if we talk about some of the veto powers, the President have 3 veto powers. They are absolute veto, suspensive veto and pocket veto. You can read it. Now, the next important topic is emergency, and before starting what all is national emergency or president rule or financial emergency, please go through learn the article numbers, which clearly means Article 352, national emergency, Article 356, president rule, Article 360, financial emergency. Now, let's discuss some of the important points related to all these 3 types of emergencies. Now, if the President is satisfied that there's three situations, whether due to war or external aggression or armed rebellion, then only the President can proclaim a national emergency. And the President can proclaim national emergency only on the written advice of the cabinet. The president has the power to revoke or modify the national emergency. Now, after the declaration of national emergency, the president need to approve it within 1 month of the proclamation of the emergency. All such proclamation of emergency shall have to be sent to Parliament for approval, and it ceases to be operational if it is not approved within 1 month. It clearly means that if the president is not taking any permission from Lok Sabha within 1 month, after 1 month it will cease. And for approval of national emergency, we need 2/3 members present and voting. And at the expiry of 6 months, it ceases unless it's approved by Parliament again. Now, what it means that in one time, a national emergency can be declared for maximum of 6 months. If the Lok Sabha dissolves, then the proclamation of emergency must be approved by Rajya Sabha within 1 month, and reconstituted Lok Sabha must approve within 1 month of its reconstitution. And we have already read this point. The Lok Sabha enjoys the power to disapprove the continuation of emergency at any stage. Now, if we talk about the emergency in states of the president rule, Article 356. Now, in this, if the president is satisfied on the report of the governor or otherwise that there exists a grave situation in a state where the administration of the state cannot be carried out in accordance with the provision of the constitution. Students, if the state cannot be carried out in accordance with the provision of constitution, then what he can do? He can take over the administration of the state himself, or notify that Parliament shall exercise jurisdiction over the state subject for the state concerned. Now, this clearly means that the president has imposed president rule or state emergency. And as we have seen in case of national emergency, the president has 1 month, but in case of state emergency, the president has 2 months by both the houses of parliament within 2 months after its proclamation. And once approved by the parliament, emergency shall be enforced for not more than 6 months from the date of proclamation by the president. Now, there's one more interesting fact related to state emergency, is that if it has to approve beyond 1 year, then 2 conditions must be satisfied. There shall be a national emergency in force in either in whole of the state or part thereof, and election commission is satisfied that under the prevailing condition, general election to the state cannot be held. But under no circumstances the state emergency cannot extend beyond 3 years. So the maximum time period of a state emergency is 3 years, and to extend it further, constitutional amendment is required. And if we talk about the financial emergency, it has not been imposed in India till now. Article 360, the president enjoys the power to proclaim the financial emergency, and if he is satisfied that the situation has arisen, that financial stability and credit of India or any part thereof is threatened, he may proclaim emergency to that effect. And interesting fact related to this is that financial emergency must be approved by Parliament within 2 months after its proclamation, and once it is approved, it will remain till the president revokes it. This is one of the important points. Now, if we talk about the state assembly, now in polity, students, the biggest plus point is that if you know Lok Sabha, you'll easily know the important points related to Vidhan Sabha. Yes, students, the only some of the difference is that in Lok Sabha we have studied there are 552 members, but when we talk about Vidhan Sabha, we need minimum 60 and maximum 500. But in some states we have allowed less than 60, and it has been approved by the Parliament. If we read out some of the lines, the Vidhan Sabha or the Legislative Assembly is the lower house of the state legislature. members of Vidhan Sabha are direct representatives of the people of particular state. Each Vidhan Sabha is formed for a tenure of 5 years. The maximum size of Vidhan Sabha is not more than 500 members and not less than 60. However, the size of Vidhan Sabha can be less than 60 members through an act of parliament, which is right now is there in the case of Goa, Sikkim and Mysuru. And what we have seen in Lok Sabha, we have the president can appoint 2 members from the Anglo-Indian committee, but in Vidhan Sabha, the governor can appoint 1 member to represent the Anglo-Indian community if he or she finds that the community not to be adequately represented in that house. If we talk about the qualification are mainly the same points. The most important point you should know is that 25 years. Now, if we talk about, we have taken a point Vidhan Sabha vis-a-vis Lok Sabha. Now, why it is important? What the important point is that in case of bills other than money bills, we all know that the money bill, Rajya Sabha, in case of money bill, Lok Sabha has more powers. But if we talk about, we have also taken a special point Vidhan Sabha vis-a-vis Lok Sabha. And if we talk about this point, in case of bills other than money bills, we all know that in case of money bill, Rajya Sabha has no powers at all. Only Lok Sabha has the powers. In case of bills other than money bills, the position of Vidhan Sabha is stronger as compared to Lok Sabha. Clearly means that while disagreement between the 2 houses of Union Parliament, which it can be resolved by a joint sitting, but there is no such provision at the state level. Now, as we have Rajya Sabha in the central level, we have Legislative Council in the state, and Legislative Council is termed as Vidhan Parishad. Same points, it cannot be dissolved. Each member is elected for 6 years. 1/3 of a member retire after every 2 years. What should be the qualification? Same, 30 years. Citizen of India, mentally sound, should not be bankrupt, must be listed in the voters list of the state. Now, what's the important point? What's the important question is from this is this: the election of members of legislative councils. 1/3 members are members of local bodies such as corporations, municipalities, Zilla Parishad. 1/3 members are the members of legislative assembly from among the persons who are not the members of assembly. 1/12 members are elected by persons who are graduates of 3 years residing in that state. 1/12 members are the persons engaged for at least 3 years in teaching in educational institutions within the state, not lower than the secondary schools. And 1/6 members are nominated by the government. Students, to learn this, how you can learn: 1/12 teachers, 1/12 graduates elect karte hain, 1/6 governor, 1/3 1/3 are MLAs and 1/3 are the local body members. You can learn like this. Now, these are the important points related to Legislative Council or Vidhan Parishad, and from Vidhan Parishad we are expecting the question from this part for sure. Now, if we talk about the government, as we have president in the central government, we have governor in the state government. The governor, and who appoints the governor? The governor is merely appointed by the president, which really means that the Union Council of Ministers. And again, we have some of the powers. We have executive powers. The governor appoints the chief minister, who enjoys the support of majority in Vidhan Sabha. The governor appoints the council of ministers, distribute portfolios to them. Advocate General, chairman of SPSCs, that is the State Public Service Commission. The governor also appoints the judges of district courts. So it's just the same way the president appoints. The president appoints the prime minister, the attorney general, the comptroller and auditor general, the election commission chairman, the judges of Supreme Court and High Courts. They all have been appointed by the president, and similarly in this way at the state level it is done by the governor. And again, in the legislative powers, summons, prorogues, and in legislative powers what we have studied the important point: 1, Anglo-Indian Vidhan Sabha, 1/6 different fields, Vidhan Parishad. That is done by the governor. Now, if we talk about the next point, the governor's address on these occasions generally outlines the new policies. The new policies are being showcased by the governor only. He can return a bill to the state legislature if it is not a money bill for reconsideration, and also has the power to reserve certain bills for the president. And similarly, the financial powers related to the bills, and then it has some discretionary powers. Now students, discretionary powers are these are situations when the governor has to act as per his or own judgment and take decisions. And mainly this can be done in case of when there is no party gets a majority in Vidhan Sabha, and the CM case, the governor can send a report to the president also informing him to impose president rule, and also the governor can reserve any bill for the president. Now if we talk about Panchayati Raj, some of the important points we have already given, so we'll go through only these topics. These were the important points. The Panchayati Raj, the term Panchayati Raj in India signifies the system of local self-government. It was constitutionalized through Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. And Rajasthan was the first state to set up Panchayati Raj system in 1959, followed by Andhra Pradesh. Now if we talk about the main provisions of 73rd Amendment, it added Part 9 to the Constitution of India, and the panchayats and its provisions consist in Articles 243A to 243O. Now what is the tenure of panchayats? We're fixing tenure of 5 years for panchayats at all levels, and reservation of 1/3 of seats for women. This could be a question, how much reservation is there in the panchayats? So the answer will be 1/3. Now the act, that is the 73rd Amendment Act, provides a 3-tier system for the Panchayati Raj: Gram Panchayat, village level; Panchayat Samiti, block level; Zilla Parishad at the district level. You can go through some of the important points related to panchayats, as we will not able to discuss each and every point, but these are the important points. You can read it down. Don't try to mug up these things. Now let's discuss the judiciary, that is the Supreme Court. Students, for examination purpose, you have to do Supreme Court and High Court, as one question in any of the set could be from this topic. For Supreme Court, you should know the jurisdiction, and also you should know the writs, and also how a Supreme Court judge can be removed. So let's discuss all these important points. Supreme Court, highest judicial forum. Under Article 124(1), originally one Chief Justice of India and not more than 6 judges, but in the Constitutional Amendment Act 2008, judges increased to 31, which includes 30 judges and 1 Chief Justice. Qualification: citizen of India, must have at least 5 years of judge of a High Court or 2 more courts in succession, or an advocate in a High Court or 2 more courts in succession for 10 years, or the person must be in opinion of President or distinguished jurist. If we talk about the removal of judges of Supreme Court, Article 124(4) provides for the removal of judges of Supreme Court. And once again, the procedure is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and President. All these approval is required, and it can be initiated in any of the house. So it could be like Rajya Sabha, then Lok Sabha, and then President. Now what are the grounds? The grounds are on the grounds of misbehavior or incapacity. Students, please remember this grounds. The grounds are misbehavior or incapacity. Now the process we have given, please go through this process. This is an important process, how a judge of Supreme Court could be removed. Now if we talk about the jurisdiction, it is the Supreme Court. It is the highest judicial forum, final court of appeal. It is established by Part 5, Chapter 4 of the Constitution of India and Article 124 to 127. These all are related with the jurisdiction and composition of Supreme Court of India. Now, the Supreme Court has three types of jurisdiction named original, appellate and advisory jurisdictions. Now, if we talk about the salary of the judge, Article 125 of the Constitution leaves it to the Indian Parliament to determine the salary allowances and etc. However, the Parliament cannot alter any of these privileges. Only in case of financial emergency they can do. A judge, a Supreme Court judge, gets 90,000 rupees while the Chief Justice gets a sum of 1 lakh rupees. We have given some of the important points. Please go through these important points. Now, if we talk about the jurisdiction, students, in the jurisdiction, what we have seen the question mainly from the original jurisdiction. Original jurisdiction means all the laws, all the decisions which can be taken only by the Supreme Court. It cannot be taken by any other court. Only the Supreme Court has the powers. And which all other powers? The original jurisdiction means that certain type of cases that can originate within Supreme Court only, and the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction in disputes related to centre and one or more states, disputes between centre and any other state on one side and one or more state on other side, disputes between two or more states, and disputes related to enforcement of fundamental rights. And remember, students, for enforcement of fundamental rights we also have High Court also. Then related to appeals we have appellate jurisdiction, and related to advice we have advisory jurisdiction. Advisory jurisdiction refers to the process where the President seeks the court's advice on legal matters, but it is not binding on the President to accept the advice. Now, we have two types of courts. We have mainly three types of courts: Supreme Court, High Court and District Courts. Now, let's discuss some of the important points related to High Court. The High Court is the apex judicial administration of the state. It is mentioned in Article 214. The High Court consists of a Chief Justice and some other judges. The number of the judges is determined by the President of India from time to time. Now, students, one more important fact is that Supreme Court maximum age is 65 years and SC judge as a High Court judge hold office until they attain the age of 62 years and are removed in the same way as a judge of Supreme Court, and they are appointed by whom? They are appointed by the President in consultation with the Chief Justice of Supreme Court and the Governor of the state concerned. Now, let's talk about the qualification. Citizen of India should held at least 10 years held as judicial office in the territory of India and has at least 10 years as an advocate of High Court or two in succession. Removal of judges, the judges of Supreme Court have been removed in the same way as the Supreme Court judge is removed. Jurisdiction, it has original jurisdiction related to writs, has appellate jurisdiction over all subordinate courts. Now, if we talk about the next important point related to jurisdiction, we have writs. As per the right to constitutional remedies, that is Article 32 to 35, a citizen has the right to move to the courts for securing the fundamental rights. Now, what is right to constitutional remedies? If a citizen is not allowed to use his right, he can directly go to a court. And which right gives him this power? It is the right to constitutional remedies. And how many types of writs are there? There are 5 types of writs are there. Do learn this. The writs are habeas corpus, quo warranto, mandamus, certiorari and prohibition. These are the 5 writs which are mentioned, and you have to learn all these 5 writs. Now, if we talk about some of the important topics, now all other topics we have given in very, very brief, and you have to learn. You have to go through all these topics. Union territories, learn Article 239 to 241, and it is mentioned in Part 8 of the Constitution. Special status to Jammu and Kashmir, it is mentioned in Article 317, Part 21 of the Constitution. Now, some of the important government bodies, students, you have to learn you have to go through these. These are very, very easy points. Election Commission mentioned in Article 324. It provides that the power of superintendence, direction, control of elections to Parliament, state legislatures, the office of President of India and the office of Vice President of India shall be vested in the Election Commissions. The elections are conducted according to the constitutional provisions supplemented by laws made by the Parliament. The tenure of CEC, that is the Election Commission, has been fixed as 6 years, subject to maximum age limit of 65 years. These are the important points you should know related to the EC and the CEC, that is the Chief Election Commissioners and the Election Commissioners and the Election Commission. Independence of Election Commission, Article 324 of the Constitution has made the following provision to safeguard and ensure the independence and impartial functioning of the Election Commission. You have to learn the powers and functions. Students, you have to go through the UPSC, the Union Public Service Commission, the State Public Service Commission, the JPSC, that is the Joint State Public Service Commission. Then if we talk about CAG, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, students, you have to learn, you have to go through all these topics, as mainly what in these topics what you have to learn, students, the topic like CAG, Attorney General of India, Election Commission, UPSC. These all are important topics as their chiefs are appointed by the President. And if we talk about the Attorney General of India, let's discuss some of the important points related to CAG as well as the Attorney General of India. Now, if we talk about CAG, in Article 148, it provides for an independent office of Comptroller and Auditor General of India. He is the head of Indian Audit and Accounts Department and the guardian of public purse. He's been appointed by the President of India and he holds office for a period of 6 years or up to 65 years, whichever is earlier. And he can resign any time from his office by addressing the letter of resignation to the President. Now, if we talk about some of the important facts related to Attorney General, Article 76 states that the President shall appoint a person who is qualified to be appointed as a judge of Supreme Court as the Attorney General of India. And remember this, we have seen many times, who is the first legal officer of the Government of India? So my answer will be Attorney General of India. And the term tenure of AGI is not fixed by the Constitution. He holds office during the pleasure of the President. He advises the government on legal matters, he performs legal duties, and he can also participate in the Parliament session but has no right to vote as he is not the member of that house. So students, there are mainly two types of funds, consolidated fund and contingency fund. Consolidated fund, if you want to study, consolidated fund of the center, consolidated fund of the state. Consolidated fund of the center means all the expenses of central government has been taken. The amount has been taken from which fund? The Consolidated Fund of India. So what could be the question? The question is Article 266 is related to which? Articles 266 is related to Constitution, to Consolidated Fund of India. It is a constitutional fund. All the receipts received, loans raised and the income of the government are deposited into a fund called the Consolidated Fund of India, and all expenditures of the government are spent out by the Consolidated Fund. It has been displaced at the disposal of Parliament. No money can be deposited into or withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund without the prior sanction from the Parliament. And also there is a separate Consolidated Fund of each state, which clearly means that President's salary is charges from Consolidated Fund of India, but the Governor's salary is charges from the Consolidated Fund of that particular state. We also have Public Accounts of India and we also have a contingency fund. Now clearly the name suggests contingency fund clearly means emergency fund. Article 267 empowers the Parliament to provide by law for the establishment of a public fund called the Contingency Fund of India. Now please go through some of the important points related to political parties. Now, conditions for recognition as a national party. If A party is recognized as national party if any of the following conditions is fulfilled. What are the conditions? If it wins 2% of seats in Lok Sabha at general election, and these candidates are elected from more than 3 states, or if it secures 6% of valid votes polled in any of the 4 or more states at general elections of the Lok Sabha or to the Legislative Assembly. In addition, it wins 4 seats in Lok Sabha from any or more states. If it is recognized as state party in your states, only then a party could become national party. Students, then we have some of the important points to look at. Please go through this. We have motions in the parliament. Want to learn. If you want to ignore it, you can leave this topic also. Now, students, as we all know that there are more than 400 articles, so you have to go through some of the articles, and please go through all the articles related to bills. It's from 107 till 122. So students, if we talk about the polity capsule, if we talk about the polity subject in the general awareness section, these could be the important topics for the SSC CGL 2016 Tier 1 examination. We really hope that you will complete all these polity topics. So stay tuned with us, be regular, be a follower of Adda 247, and do share your feedbacks related to this video, as these are very new initiatives which has been taken by your own, the Adda 247, the official YouTube channel of bankersadda.com and sscadda.com. And with this video, our aim is to give you the important brief topics of Indian polity, and we really hope that this video will help you to cover the Indian polity section very easily. Thank you.